All right, g'day, hi and welcome. All right, here we got the magnificent Mark Holcomb SE PRS SE 6-string signature series guitar here, and hopefully the camera angle will do it justice. I try to dust it off as much as I can. There we go. The 1-year review. So I still owe money on this guitar, but it is a very, very, very cool guitar. I already did the tabletop. This is just my impressions of it 1 year later, so to speak. Looks really cool against the Anaconda burst of my new drum kit, too. So, alright, so 1 year later, how does this guitar hold up? What do I think of it? Would I recommend it? Well, first off, the simple answer is yes. It's a very, very awesome guitar. Hopefully that catches everything. So we'll go over the specs. So it is a mahogany body with a maple cap with the quilted maple cap, which is book matched. Well, it's maybe not. Well, it's sort of book matched. Well, it's not quite book matched, but it's a two-piece maple cap with the Mark Holcomb burst. Obviously, you can see it's a gray and purple, and they vary from guitar to guitar. Some has a little more definition on the purple, whatever. The new model's Blue Burst, or Mark Holcomb Blue Burst. It also has a tone volume, but it also has a push-pull pot to split the coils, which gives you these two inner coils here. The pickups are the very Savage Alpha and Omega pickups, very hot pickups, almost too hot for most people. The bridge is kind of a Mark Holcomb. It's a lot more round. It's probably the nicest fixed bridge I've ever played. Just judging the bridge. It has a neck through construction, or set neck, whatever, which is a maple neck with a ebony fingerboard, 24 frets, jumbo frets. I don't think they're stainless steel. I think they're just, well, I'm not sure if they're stainless steel or not, but they're good frets anyway. I don't see any signs of fret wear, considering how much I've played this guitar. The ebony fingerboard, 24 fret. The radius of this guitar's fingerboard is 20 degrees, so it's as flat as it could possibly be. It's the flattest. There's only a handful of guitars that have fingerboards that flat. And then, of course, for the tuners, you got the standard PRS tuners, which I'm actually quite impressed with their base model tuners. A lot of other companies could take note of that. They're a very smooth tuner. They're not a locking tuner, but yeah. So yeah, you also get a gig bag with it. And at the time, this guitar was $1,300 Canadian plus tax and everything. Came up just a little under $1,500. Okay, so 1 year on, I'll start about the things that I'm not crazy about on the guitar. Let me think here. There's really not too much that I can complain about. The only thing I would complain about is one of the things I love about it the most, and that is the 20-degree fretboard, because it takes a little while to get used to. Most guitar players will find it extremely flat, and you got to work a little harder for certain things, but everything else is easier. If you're a legato guy, this is the fretboard for you. If you are a hammering on guy, like a finger tapping guy, this is the fretboard for you. If you're a pig squeal guy, this is the fretboard for you. If you're a sweep picking guy, you might have to flatten out your finger a little bit more to get it. That's the trade-off. You have to really flatten that finger to get that roll, your finger roll for your sweep, perfect. But when you do it, it rewards you. So that's about the only thing, if you want to call it a negative. It's really just a critique of a different, you're going to play it just a little bit different than you would your normal guitars. So there's that. But everything else, I absolutely love. The binding's really nice. Now, one thing I want to talk about is, so far, I was in Long and McQuaid the other day when I picked up this beautiful Anaconda burst drum kit. It's a Apex. You'll see this. You'll see lots of videos on this coming up and whatever. And the thing is that the guitar, it compared to any other PRS, is different. When I was in Long McQuaid, there was a couple of SE models. I just just kind of wrapped my fingers around the neck and stuff like that. Not the same at all. It is a thicker neck than most people are probably shredder guys are used to. But it's a wet sanded neck, so it's like a satin finish almost. But it's the smoothest neck of any guitar I've ever played under $5,000. The binding and the neck is completely seamless the way they wet sanded it. And I will say, as of right now, of the very few PRSs that I've tried, including core models, I'm about to make a big, bold statement here. This is hands down, for metal, at least for metal, is probably the best playing PRS on the market that's probably ever been. It's that good once you get used to the 20-degree fretboard. So the strap locks, everything, all that. Well, they're not really strap locks, but they're really, really generous pegs. This guitar balances very well, everything like that. With the mahogany, you get a nice, big, dark, heavy sound. The Alpha and Omega pickups are crazy, crazy aggressive. The only complaints you hear about this guitar is usually that people say the pickups sound harsh. The way Mark Holcomb has this guitar set up is to take as much saturation as possible. So the pickups are a little bit sterile on the EQ side of things. They're more of like a flat EQ, but they're really, really hot. What that allows you to do is get insane amounts of gain on it, right? There's no such thing as too much gain for this guitar. Like, as much as distortion you could throw at it, it'll take it. And it'll stay clear while you're doing it. That's one of the things I noticed about these pickups. They're really, really, really clear. So they're not going to sound like a Les Paul 59 or something like that. They're going to have more of a neutral, pickup sound. But one thing you get is that clarity. But the other thing is it handles effects amazingly. So what delays, chorus, flanges, whatever, it just handles it really, really well. So for you metal guys out there, I know some people don't think pickups make a difference, but they do. It's just they're really, really hot. So if you're one of those guys that want to play straight through like a Marshall amp or like my Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, it murders the amp. They're just too hot. They will sound harsh because they need to be compressed, meaning when you got lots of gain, you typically get a lot of compression. And this is meant to kind of overpower that compression and give you a little bit more, right? So if you don't compress, the pickups are just too hot for most people. So if you're a blues guy, these pickups will not be for you. If you're a country rock guy, these pickups definitely won't be for you at all. If you're a jazz guy, you might find a crazy way to make it work. I know jazz guys are just oddball people to begin with, but this is really a metal guitar. You can do a little more than metal with it, but it's really a metal guitar. Now, this guitar also comes in drop C tuning, which, yes, you can intonate it for standard tuning, but it has 10 to 52s on it. Yes, these are still the original strings. I don't change my strings when I don't play live. I don't change my strings until I need to. So the strings are a little bit dead, but that said, the clarity of this guitar is just fantastic. The playability, still the factory setup for the action, and like I say, I just don't think I can make this guitar any better. But you do have to live with it. Now, once you live with it, you're going to start looking at your other guitars and saying, well, I could get that much for that one. I can get that much for that one because this is that good. Now, it'll never be a 7-string. It'll never be the 8-string. But it's the 6-string that just gives you killer metal sound. So if you're into symphonic metal or something where there's a lot of thrashiness, and one thing I noticed about this guitar, when you really lay into it with kind of like a thrashiness, that's when you get the clarity and the overtones and all those great things. So the guitar is really set up to be as clear as possible when saturated with gain as possible, right? As much as possible. So it does that phenomenally well. That said, playing wise, I haven't played the new model, which has slightly more tame pickups, the Scourge and the Scarlet, which I'd like to try it, but if you're just like full metalhead kind of thing, this is the guitar for you. Now, that said, for the clean tones, If you have compression, a little bit of compression on your clean sound, and you have like a little flange and chorus or whatever, it sounds absolutely brilliant. It'll never sound like a Telecaster. It'll never sound like a Stratocaster or a Les Paul or an SG or anything like that. Or it's not going to sound like a hollow body, but it's going to be a very, very clean, tight sound. Uh, the thing I notice with recording is the nuances that you pick up off of this guitar that I don't get out of the other guitars when I like, especially when I do a pig squeal or a string bend. One of the things about the 20-degree fretboard radius that it allows you to bend the string like around the planet kind of thing, and it does it in such a way that when you're doing like a, I think like a Zach Wild kind of pig squeal on the E string, it just does it in such a way where it just gives you a lot of depth, but it also allows you to do harmonics a little bit. They ring out a little bit better for some reason, but it just could be just because it's an amazingly made guitar, and the PRS quality is really good. But I will say this is probably the best PRS on the market that you can get for metal. I know some people will fight me on it, I'm sure, but guys, I've owned a lot of guitars, and I try a lot of guitars. Every time I go into a music store, I try something new, and like there's very few guitars that now, after living with this for a year, that I would trade for this guitar. This guitar is that good. Especially in the drop C, it just what a great sounding guitar. I haven't tried it in standard tuning. I have no inclination to try it in standard tuning. If I had two of them, maybe one.